nothing else, like you always dreamed. There'll be creaks in the floorboards, some doors just won't close.
Well, Braden, let's start with the obvious to me that I stumbled upon you by accident. I had a chance to meet somebody who had a chance to see you live downtown in Toronto, and they came back gushing and telling me about what a very soulful experience they had. For you as an artist in a big city, how are you finding the experience of going out there and putting yourself out there in front of crowds of people who you know are sometimes depressed, unhinged, looking for something to make them feel good? What's it like for you to go out there in 2026 in this modern era with your guitar and a lot of courage to perform what you like to do?
Yeah, a lot of courage is a good way to start. I'm pretty new onto the scene myself, and it took me a while to muster up said courage to actually get out there and step on stage. But once I did, I was telling this actually to a buddy not long ago that, you know, the nerves of getting on stage and performing in front of any kind of group of people is always pretty rattling. But the first time I played in Toronto, from the first time to the second time, I think the nerves dropped about 50% because as soon as I got on stage, I realized that everyone was there to listen to music, to support artists, to have fun, and just really be there, like really be the people's champion. I don't think I've ever been to an open mic night or any kind of gig in Toronto where there's anything but just pure positivity across the board. So it's a really fantastic city to engage with the crowd, and to try some new stuff as well. It's like not people aren't even going out and they don't want you to play, you know, a cover. They're not screaming Wonderwall from the back. They genuinely want to hear new original music. There's a craving and a desire for that, which yeah, it really spurs you on as an artist.
I like how you described it. It's by its very essence a craving, a desire for something new and something meaningful. And, you know, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, as an active musician myself, I remember performing at Lee's Palace. I remember going to the Horseshoe Tavern. I remember the Rivoli. I remember all those places. And of course, a lot of them are gone, but some of them remain. Along with what I've noticed is a dearth, an incredible outpouring of new venues that want to attract an artist, that want to attract musicians to their pubs and their restaurants and their festivals. Would you consider yourself coming in at the right time that way, being new, or do you feel that sometimes you wish it was an earlier time in the city? What's your overall perception of how Toronto is embracing its new, young, emerging talent on the scene?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I hear, you know, just rave reviews of what Toronto was like, you know, pre-COVID era. Specifically in terms of the music scene, there was a lot more venues apparently around town. A few got shut down after COVID, so I heard there was a lot of mourning and grieving over things like that. So I guess there's always a sense of yearning for the past. It actually comes across in a lot of my music. So I'm always sort of looking over my shoulder a little bit and going, oh, what would have been like back then, or what would have been like in that particular place at that particular time. But honestly, since I've been in and around town, like I said, just playing and just feeling the positive vibes from absolutely everyone and seeing all of these artists come out and not just support you, but wanting to collaborate, wanting to congratulate you, or wanting to compliment you on a particular song or a particular riff that you wrote. I'm not sure there is any better time, but now I would say. So I try not to dwell on it too much of what would have been like back then. I try to just think that like, okay, right now seems to be like a pretty good time, but I think it always has been and it always will be with a city like Toronto.
I think it's in its blood. I think whatever was established in years gone by from those people who like going to the vinyl record stores and those early years with Canadian bands that you heard about, like a Triumph or a Rush, or later on a Tragically Hip, They all had the
Yeah.
opportunity to go through the ranks of a very sprawling and sometimes overwhelming city that, at its heart, loves and cares about music. So, if somebody is stumbling upon a Braden Finlay show and they walk in, how would you describe to people who've never seen you both your style of music and the kind of musician you are? Because I certainly hate when I hear about musicians being labeled and then you kind of limit them and you don't leave yourself room for surprise. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're quite a chameleon that way. You can give them an expectation of an archetype, but something tells me you're there to kind of go beyond that, right?
Yeah, I tried to, when it comes to my music, I mean, it centers a lot around folk music and sort of that direction in terms of a genre. But I've just always called it porch music. Just music that I just want to sit on my porch and just play with a couple of people around, sinking beers. And I use my music sort of as like a personal diary, I would say, and to explore themes of, like I said, like time and the past and the meaning of things. So I would probably say it centers mainly around folk, but I also try to add in always a few songs here and there that kind of shift out of that particular genre a little bit, just so I get some variety and I explore other avenues of my musical personality through different styles of music and through different approaches. So it can go from folk to a bit more, maybe something has more of like a pop ring to it, and then it moves over into sort of a little bit more bluesy and dark and ominous. So I try to switch it up in that regard.
Is there a sweet spot for you in your musical range where you like to be in terms of the style of music you're playing, whether it's a blues song or whether it's a folk storytelling, vignette? Like what's the Braden Finlay sweet spot where if I'm looking and listening to you playing, I know that you are completely doing what you were meant to do?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely the storytelling part. I mean, when I first started trying to write songs, let's put it that way, I was mainly just writing stuff that either just sounded cool or oh yeah, that sounds like that could be a lyric. And it wasn't, too awful, but what I realized, I'm like, I actually want to try to say something with my music. I do have songs every once in a while that just are to give off more of a feeling. But I try to tell a story or have a golden thread of a story through each of my songs, whether it's a piece of advice that I got that maybe I didn't listen to, or whether it's a little story from my childhood or from someone that I knew from my childhood, but I tried to compartmentalize it over the years. It's always some sort of narrative thread that goes throughout.
It's interesting too because you mentioned porch music. I've been coming across so many different ways to describe different genres like yacht rock and fiddle rock and porch music. And I love it because it clearly goes beyond an identification of stylistic music and more about how it's affecting you on an existential level or a visceral level. Where did that come? Where did that inspiration for you to become a storyteller, like as I like to call them, raconteur, troubadour? How did you get that inspiration to be the one who projects and tells the story rather than being the one who's listening to them and feeling the emotions?
Well, it's funny enough. I was a creative copywriter in ad agencies before I got out of Dodge and ducked out of corporate maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. But I was always trained to create condensed stories, but for brands. And that was, it's a lot of fun. It's a great job. But at the end, I just found it pretty frustrating because no matter how good the story was, no matter how interesting it was, there was never a part of me in it. And that just goes by, the trade because it is for a brand, it is for a product. So it really pushed me to go, well, why am I not telling my stories? I mean, I'm sure I've got a few in my back pocket, or at least, I can go ask my dad, what he's got going on in his life, or is there anything that he wanted to tell? I just wanted to tell more, I guess, authentic human stories as opposed to ones that are tied to corporations or branding and things like that. Even though that's a lot of fun, I think I just get a lot more out of telling stories with that human aspect to it.
Well, and you get more of a true, genuine connection between your admirers, fans, and the audience, right? When they see that you're telling a story born out of something that you've either been affected by experiencing it directly or knowing someone who has, they then take that stone, they carry the stone of the experience, and that can sometimes be something that even reminds them of sad times. But with music, it doesn't really abide only by happiness or sadness, it abides by whether or not you can leave an indelible impression so that they'll remember where they were when you sung to them. And it's both in its
For sure.
most meritocratic form. I would imagine that must be pretty refreshing for you to know that you can have that effect on people.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's nothing better than someone coming up to you after a show and saying, I mean, there's one thing to say I really like the song. There's another thing to hear, oh, I really identified with that song, or that song really spoke to me, or there's even if it's just that one line that you said in there that really that hit home. There's really nothing better than that, because that's that's human connection. That's what we all strive for. And that's sort of like the dance that you do with writing this type of music, is telling a story, telling your story perhaps, but also leaving room for interpretation, or leaving room for other people from all different walks of life to be able to relate to that music. So it's a very, it's hard to get right sometimes, because a lot of times you're just putting yourself into it. It's like I'm telling you exactly how it happened for me, but then you have to go back and realize, like, you got to leave a little room for people to come stand beside you and experience that particular story with you. So it's interesting.
And not be distracted by their phones or anything else that might be tearing them away from the moment, right?
Right.
Um, who does that for you? Which artists or what style of music do you find that when you're listening to it has that effect on you, which can instantly give you a recollection of where you were as a little boy, or maybe a relationship you had, or some kind of confrontation or challenge? Who does that for you?
There's a few artists. One of them is Tom Waits, I would say. And
Brilliant.
I mean, I just also find him, he's such as you said before, talking about an artist who's a chameleon. I mean, I don't think there's ever been someone like Tom Waits. I don't think there will ever be someone like Tom Waits ever again. He's an absolutely fascinating artist, and a very interesting person, and a very emotional and insightful person. And from his first album to his most recent one, he's gone through such a transformation and tried so many different things. But he's always, like I said, he's always been telling stories in his music, which I've gravitated to. Another artist is someone called Jeffrey Martin, who's I think he came out in the late 2000 teens. But I think is one of the most gifted songwriters of our generation. I think he's wildly talented, and he encapsulates such raw feelings when he writes and when he plays. That, like, those two I think are definitely at the top of my list in terms of people who, every time I listen to them, every time I listen to a song, or even hear them in an interview, the first thing I think of after I watch or listen is, I need to go write more music.
That's astounding. That's really the same kind of inspiration you'll find if, for example, you want to get into filmmaking, or if you want to get into painting, or if you want to get into pottery, that someone does something that so inspires you that you want to understand how to take the reins, how to not just play the instrument, but how to channel that feeling. And there are very few musicians, I think, who are very authentic that way. There are some who are just entertainers. There are some who are hardcore musicians. But what I love is that rare hybrid where you can be both a musician and an entertainer. And I'm noticing in some of your recent performances, that's what you're trying to channel. You're not just there to sing your songs. You want to hit the marks and make people look to you as a rallying cry for getting them through what could be a tough night, but bringing them some kind of musical joy and illumination through your shared experiences.
Oh, for sure. That's something that I never really I saw it coming. It's something that I obviously experienced when I would go out to, see different bands or shows or artists, but I never realized how much of an additional skill set to writing music and then performing music it is to actually entertain a crowd and to create that connection with them, not just through your music, but through just conversing with them and doing a little bit of crowd work. I actually saw an artist called Garnet Rogers not too long ago at Hughes Room down here in Toronto. He's Stan Rogers' brother. He plays a lot of like Irish folk music. Um, Another wildly talented individual, almost to an annoying degree. But he's put 60 plus years into it, so he deserves everything he gets. But when we went to listen to him, it was amazing because when he's playing his music, he would have these little sort of in-betweens where they would last anywhere between 2 to 10, 15 minutes, I would say, of him just speaking and orating and telling stories about, traveling with his old band and his brother back in the day when he was alive, or, just a little excerpt from this experience he had when he was over in Asia doing a show. And when he actually went back to go playing his music, even though I was desperate to hear more of his music, I mean, I could have sat there all night and just listened to him talk and have been happy. And that's something that, again, another sort of like inspiration came out of that, where I was like, I need to get better at at talking and orating with the crowd, because it really sews together the entire experience, rather than just sitting there and just going track after track. You get to know the artist and the personality through something other than their music, which I find is really interesting.
A great observation. It punctuates what an evening with Braden Finlay is supposed to be. It's not an evening with just music. We all know a lot of pubs and bars and environments where people sit down and enjoy food. That music can be a great equalizer. With the right kind of music, it can amplify the dining experience as well as what people are talking about. I think that's where your approach and your music is very much an X factor. You're the difference between a humble little dinner and a night to remember. And the fact that you're doing it without having to rely on other band members and sometimes, as they say, hiding behind the music, you're all out in front, bearing yourself to them and basically letting them know that I have a tale to tell. And if you continue to, enjoy your pork chops or whatever you're enjoying that evening, you'll walk out feeling more than just well fed, but truly psychologically nourished.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. That's why I sort of, it's particularly important for me to, harness and improve that skill, because as I described my music being porch music, I want the performance to be just as if we were sitting on the porch, like I said, drinking a few beers and playing together. Like there would be talks and chats in between and laughs. So I want to try to interject that into some of the performance.
The guitar, by its very nature, especially anyone playing classical or acoustic guitar, I find that it gives them a way to kind of reach into the soul a little deeper. Other instruments exist as a structure and a form. The guitar has traditionally been your magic instrument that can help you vocalize truly what's inside. Even the most famous guitarists, they just have this way in the manner in which they play and what they play that really resonates with people. Who was your guitar hero that you might single out, that when it came to the early stages of creating pace and rhythm to the stories you tell? Who do you admire, maybe more from either my era, because I'm long in the tooth here, being a Gen Xer, and you're more of a millennial in that regard. Who would someone say that you remind them of based on that kind of stylistic approach?
I mean, I'm not sure if I remind people of anyone. I don't want to, put myself up on the pedestal with people I consider gods in a way. But I've listened to a lot of, like I said, a lot of folk music. Gregory Alan Isakov inspired me quite a bit. There's another folk duo who they're called the New Age Simon and Garfunkel, but they're called the Milk Carton Kids, who every time I hear them again, like I said, I'm just like, I gotta go write a new riff. And it's interesting with those two because you have Joey Ryan and Kenneth Pattingale. Joey Ryan is, he plays, but Kenneth Pattingale is the one who, really does the licks, and he's bewilderingly proficient at guitar, and incredible to watch. But Joey Ryan is like, essentially, he's a songbird of our generation. So it's interesting to see those two because you get the sort of like that the dualistic dynamic between, you know, someone who's really like focusing on singing and then the other person is really focusing on guitar. And I'm trying to be somewhat in the middle there, being just a one-man show. But yeah, those two I would say are kind of the ones that again spur me forward and constantly inspire me to create new things.
Are you sometimes thinking as you're writing and creating new compositions that some of them may be ones in which you would want to get some extra players and create with a band type environment that you'd front, or is it just exclusively staying as a solo artist?
Oh no, I thrive off of collaboration. It's actually something I'm hoping to do in the near future. I'm currently trying to get some songs recorded, and being in and around open mic nights here in Toronto, what's great, like I said about the city, is that everyone's looking to collaborate. I got a friend who I'm hoping that they play some harmonica on one of the tracks that I have. I'm always looking for a fiddle player because I just guitar and the fiddle, that sort of pairing is always, it's always sung to me. But yeah, I would love. I'm always looking to add different instruments just to play around and see. And like I'm not one of those artists who think, if this is the song, this is the song how it always has to be. I'm always interested. It's like, well, what if we speed it up a bit? What if we add a bass? What if we add a drum track to it? Like, how does it shift and change? And like, does that allow you to play in different moods and scenarios to change the whole vibe of things? It's always it's music is experimentation, and I think it should be constantly played with and interpreted in different ways, because that's what it's all about.
Well said, because in the 70s and 80s, what you just described would usually end up with a mellotron or an organ or keyboards, right? Because there was always this desire of how we lift the music to another level. For you personally, as you mentioned, and as I've gotten to know you personally, corporate background, once upon a time, you were a very different man in that regard. And then you decided to focus on this. When was the moment that the light switch came on that you realized, you know what, I want to take my music and I want to share it with other people in live environments?
That's a really interesting question. I think it was a lot of little moments, and like I said, it was just building up the courage to take the leap and try to build a plane when you're falling. But yeah, for years I've always thought, wouldn't it be cool to write music? Wouldn't it be cool to put some stuff out there? But as a creative at heart, I'm wildly proficient at procrastination.
You too,
and
huh?
then yeah, and holding myself back. So yeah, it took me a while. It took a lot of encouragement from loved ones, from my wife, to say like, no, I think you can do this. And then at some point, getting of age, I'm 37 now. At some point, you have to think, well, if I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to do it. So it got to the point where it's like, I looked at myself in the mirror and I had to say, like, this is your choice. Either get on the horse or just keep walking the way you are. And I guess I chose to get on the horse.
Well, and it took a dose of, as you say, courage. It takes a lot of bravery to get up and kind of bury yourself. And I'm sure that there have been moments along the road where you went, wow, I would have done that differently. But as you said, that's part of the musician's journey, right? You need to figure out where you can be at your best in terms of the kind of venues you play, in terms of the kind of people you collaborate with. But it is awfully exciting, isn't it, that you're finding out that the musical fraternity is extraordinary, isn't it? Musicians, I find, are very good to one another because they can empathize and look at each other's situation and put themselves in their shoes and say, I don't want to compete with you. There's no reason for it. Let's complement each other and just keep doing what we can to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you said, they're in the exact same boat as you. Different life experience, different circumstances that they're living in, but everyone knows what it's like to try to sit down and write a song and then put a melody to it and then perfect it and play it over and over and over again just till it's just right. So even when you get up on that stage and you might hit a bum note, or you might hit sing a flat, people are just like, that's just part of the thing, man. Like you get up on, at least for me, I used to get up on stage and say, if I get one thing wrong, that's it. Just everything falls apart. And you soon realize that no, people really, it's not that they don't care, but it's like they understand that that's just a part of the way things go. They don't expect you to be perfect.
They value the idiosyncratic outcome, right? Because
Right?
even with its imperfections, you will have been demonstrating something they've never heard before. And I think that those who are more analytical and technical minded might rake you over the coals and say, the way you played that was a little out of tune, or your pattern signature didn't really work well. But those who love the feel of music will say, wow, you tried something and you pushed me to a higher level of awareness, and I want to hear more of that. Can you listen to what you've done? Are you one of those musicians who cringes when he listens to his material, the way an actor doesn't want to see himself on screen? Or are you the kind of person to go over tape and video and audio and say, wow, I tried something new, it worked, I might incorporate it into a future act?
I'm definitely the first one. I'm trying to get better at that. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better at listening to myself back or rewatching videos of myself. Because also, like, it's just reviewing the game time footage. Like, it's
Exactly.
only going to help you get better, and you just got to grit your teeth through it, even if you don't like hearing yourself back, or you're like, oh, I look kind of stupid on stage, or I did a silly thing. It's just it's one performance, and there's going to be thousands more as long as you keep going with it.
That's
So
right.
I think I learned pretty early not to be so precious about every performance, not to be so precious about every demo track that I'm recording to send to a producer so we can get it on the tape. Um, because it's just like I said, especially when it comes to this sort of music, folk music, as you perfectly said, that sort of those little idiosyncrasies here and there are what really makes it. And right now, I'm trying to record music, and I have Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska album almost as a little, I guess, artistic reference. I adore that album. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I believe he recorded it in his father's house on just some, regular old run-of-the-mill recording equipment. And you hear some bum notes, and you hear kind of creaks, and you hear buzzing, and it's like I love that. I find it a little bit, I'm not sure to say difficult to listen to studio produced music, but I'm definitely drawn to live performances and things that sound a lot more organic rather than overly polished. So a lot of the stuff that I was worried about when I first started playing, I have to remind myself that that's the kind of stuff that I'm searching for. It's not for everyone, but that's okay. And then finding a crowd that likes the same stuff that I do, I mean, that's the goal.
And then watch as it, like a wildfire, grows with their interest and desire in it. I
Hopefully.
totally agree with you in keeping it. I mean, the album you described has such great production value for something that was done so simple because it captured all the sound. It reminds me of the mid 70s Zeppelin album, Physical Graffiti, when they did a double album. And every third song sounds like somebody inadvertently hit the wrong time to start the song. And there's all sorts of weird, these types of superfluous elements, but they're not. They're what make the song unique, and then ultimately what
Exactly.
makes you inspired to play it. As a final question for you, Braden, I watch you perform, and I had the pleasure of kind of reaching out on social media, getting some clips, appreciating what you do. And in many of them, I noticed that when you perform, you're very intense in the sense that you are truly in the zone, focused, and trying to, whether it's playing or singing, convey that message that this is a meaningful thing that you're putting on. Is it easier or harder to do that living in 2026 in such a misanthropic world, in one where there's so much frustration between politics, religion, propaganda, disinformation? Does that inspire you maybe to write more meaningful songs, deeper songs with a more edge of simplicity rather than throwing something that's manufactured at people?
Yeah, I think music has always been an escape for people. I mean, it's particularly been an escape for me. Um, so when I'm performing on stage, yeah, maybe I do look a little intense and like I'm in the pocket, but I'm trying to get to a place where I'm really focused on on the performance and on the song, and I want it to be the best that it can be. And I want to not just sing it, but sing it with the feeling that I had when writing the lyrics. And you kind of have to get yourself in a mindset to put yourself back in that place. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff out there today that's it's kind of like muddying the waters of people's minds, and that's what I'm hoping that my music can do, is just sort of like take people aback from all of that. And like I said, get them back on the porch where everything's fine, the birds are singing, you get a nice cold drink in your hand, and you're just sitting there playing with friends. That's what I'm trying to encapsulate.
Just that description alone, listening to you brings a lot of solace, because that's what I would want us to be, in the countryside in an old house with a small lantern, a Guinness in one hand, maybe a little sweet leaf or a cigar in the other, and just enjoying the moments as they pass me by. I think that's what your music is not only doing, but I think as you put more time and effort into this, I think you'll have a lot of success from people who come across you and say, that's my guy. That's who I listen to when I want solace and peace of mind.
Oh, thank you very much. That's humbling. Thank you.
Braden, continued success, my friend. What have you got on the horizon in terms of touring and plans for yourself over the next few months?
No, I'm still playing open mic nights down here in Toronto. I'm currently trying. I got one track recorded that's set to launch, I think later this month. And then I've got a few in the pipeline that I actually just sent to the producer today. There's some demo tracks I'm looking to record pretty soon, and hopefully going to release an EP within the next 6 to 8 months, and to blast it out on all your streaming platforms, YouTube Music, things like that.
Well, something tells me you'll have a chance to have an awesome springboard of festivals and opportunities to go ahead and ply your craft. And as more people find you in the most organic manner, they'll appreciate your music for what it truly is.
Me too. Yeah, I can't wait to play it with Whiskey and Cream. That's one thing that I'm really looking forward to. I think it's something that has been missing for a very long time in this part of the country, and I'm glad that you're helping to bring it back. So yeah, Whiskey and Cream is definitely on the docket, and hopefully I'll be able to get to play some of the music that I just talked about.
Looking forward to it.
We'll jump in our pickup truck whenever you're feeling